Hi, I'm Archie Jennings. I'm a London-based composer. Thank you so much for joining me on this little walkthrough of my example score for our recent YouTube clip, The World of Dinosaurs. This should be a pretty brief walkthrough or just look at my score. There's a few different sections that I want to talk through today and just show you what I did, outline the MIDI and all of that jazz. As a creator member, this is one of the videos that you get along with all of the assets from my session. So make sure you download those resources to have a look and follow along as we go through this video. And of course, make sure you submit your own score for this clip. So let's dive right in and have a listen to my score.
For hundreds of years, since the discovery of the first fossils, the idea of giant beasts roaming the earth has captured our collective imagination, drawing visitors by the thousand to exhibitions across the globe. Join us as we uncover the first ever found footage of these beasts that lets us delve deeper into the world of the dinosaurs. For centuries, dinosaurs have fascinated scientists and enthusiasts alike. Their discovery has reshaped our understanding of life on Earth, providing a window into a lost world buried beneath layers of time. These creatures were not just monsters of the past, but living, breathing animals that adapted to diverse environments across the globe. Each species had its own unique features and behaviors, shaped by millions of years of evolution. Through fossil evidence and scientific research, we've pieced together their world, a world of lush forests, vast plains, and seas teeming with life. But their reign was not without challenge. Climate change, global catastrophe, and subsequent mass extinction led to the demise of the dinosaurs, marking the end of an era and paving the way for the rise of mammals and ultimately humans. Join us as we embark on a journey through time, exploring the incredible world of dinosaurs as they remind us of the ever-changing nature of our planet and the resilience of life itself.
So first things first, I want to just talk through my thinking for the overall sound for this clip. And actually, I wouldn't usually go towards this, but I went for just a general large orchestral sound for this clip. And that's because I really thought that it would really suit this kind of grandiose nature, and it would pair really well with the, shots of these massive beasts and these huge landscapes. This kind of orchestral score goes really well with this kind of documentary style feature. For the most part, I've just used like the Western orchestra with a few sort of Indian instruments and a couple African drums and that sort of thing, just to give that kind of cool vibe, just something a little bit different. So let me talk through the introduction. Something that's quite important is that I've just allowed it to open with the sounds of the nature, the trees and the birds, and you can actually just hear this dinosaur slightly growling a little bit in the beginning as well. So what's really important is to know when to score and when not to score, and I thought it was nice to open up just with the sounds of the environment that we're in, just to place us there straight away. So we've got a few seconds of that, and then about 4 seconds in we have these blooms from Fracture Sounds, which is from their library String Formations. Really beautiful library. Let's just hear them by themselves. Really nice and expressive, and not too much to counteract the sounds of the environment. Okay, and alongside that, we have a melody in the flute. So let's hear those both together. The sounds I'm using here for my orchestra are mainly BBC Symphony Orchestra from Spitfire Audio. So this is the legato patch from the woodwind section. And then slowly coming in and supporting, we have this cello down here, just sort of in kind of unison, in octaves with the flute on a few of the notes, just to outline and bring some energy forward. And the reason we want to bring that energy forward is because we're working towards this climax at about bar 34. And so we want to be able to gently bring things in one at a time so that by the time we get to bar 34, we have this huge climax and it's not too jarring hearing it all come in together. Now, on the repeat of the melody, we have some other instruments coming in. We've got this bassoon line running down, and we've also got some oboe and a harp just to sort of glissando into that bassoon part and just provide something a little bit more interesting. We've got a timpani as well to allow a little roll into this next melodic idea. Let's hear it without the voiceover. So things are building already. We've got this new idea in the string line, violins coming in, and a bit of pizzicato, I think lower notes outlining the melody, along with some celeste and glockenspiel, just to provide a little bit of movement and sort of excitement as we move into the point of tension and climax. That theme here, we're in the key of A flat major or F minor, and here's our main theme in the horns. Really, really simple, but kind of really nice and powerful. Lands on that F to signal sort of F minor. Let's just hear that once again. And that's our main theme for this score, and it comes back later on and it's hinted at other different moments. If we just have a look at what's going on in the brass here, we have trumpets coming in along with some trombone, and then we have the horns coming in along with the other trumpet, also some bassoon and clarinet and oboe joining them as well. So let's just hear the winds and the brass together. And what I've done to make that really nice and powerful is in one of the horns, I've used this marcato expression, which has this strong attack. And that's just able to provide that really big thematic idea. And percussion-wise as well, we've got the bass drum, timpani, and cymbals rolling in to support that main climax, along with these brass chimes from East-West Opus, which I really like these. So let's have a listen to these. Really cool. Let's just hear it all together one more time. And that leads us into this sort of different idea now. So we're now following the dinosaur on the hunt as if we're watching him. And I wanted us to kind of feel that sense of movement. So I brought in this percussion, and this is Darwin percussion from Albion 1. A really, really great first library if you're looking for a first library. And you can play around with the mic settings in this library. So it would default to just the tree mics, which are just a little bit above the instrument when it's being played or above the player. But I've turned that off, or I put it down quite a bit, so we just have the close mic sound. So let me play you what it sounds like with the tree mic and without the close mic. Cool, but we want to have this intimate vibe, like we're right with the dinosaur. So we just have this close mic setting changed now. And I think that sounds way cooler, to be honest. Like we're right there. It's really, really cool. So we've moved away a little bit in this section from that kind of Western orchestral sound. And I've got a few flutes and other drum sounds going on. So apologies if I butcher the names of some of these, because I'm not actually really familiar with them. But we've got this ney flute sound, which I think was kind of cool. And we've got this ngoni, I think that's maybe how you say it, which I believe is some African percussion. So let's hear those together. And they kind of just bounce off each other a little bit. No, it's this African string instrument. Really, really nice sounding. It just adds to that cool, close vibe. And then I've brought in the kind of Western orchestra. Some trombones and horns. Let's hear it together. Needs a little bit of a mix, this piece, but I've just sort of laid down the basic ideas for you. This ngoni also has Echo Boy on it from Sound Toys, which is a really great echo plugin, and I've just used this space echo setting on it. So this is it without, and then this is it with. That's just part of the idea of getting away from this kind of standard orchestra. And we've got this new theme, goes like this. And a C minor sound. And I've used articulation sets to be able to sort of alter the sound in these different ways in just one sort of piano roll instance or section. So you've got here marcato sounds here for these longer notes, and then you've got staccatissimo sounds here for these shorter notes. So let's just hear that by itself. Really cool. You got a few gong sounds and tam sounds just to go along with that, along with some other cymbals and that sort of thing, just to, you know, fill out the space a little bit and provide some energy. And I didn't want this part to be too full of much, to be honest. I started off with lots of ideas going on here, but I think it really sets the scene nicely just to have it slowly like repeating and building a little bit with a few different ideas and sounds coming in. That way we're able to really sort of prioritize the narrator here, because this is where the narrator is sort of setting the scene for us. So it then kind of moves into a different idea and talks a little bit about the different features of the different dinosaurs. So I've sort of moved it into a new idea. For that, I've used Albion Solstice with some sort of choir sounds and also another kind of shout sound. So Albion Solstice, I've used this motor sound, and I think it's just on this kind of F5 chord and then like a C5 chord. Let's hear it. And then along with that, I've got this kind of shout from Voices of Soul from East West. Sounds really, really cool. And I've just added Echo Boy to it. Once again, I've used this Memory Man preset. I think I was just playing with a few different presets and seeing what I thought sounded cool. And together they sound like this. Nice kind of wavering pitch wise, which I really liked as well, along with just some strings and that percussion again. So let's hear all of that together. So it's a little bit everywhere, but I kind of do like it. It works pretty well. Again, it needs a bit of a mix, but things are working quite well. So then we go into the final section, and this is where it starts talking about the environment that these dinosaurs lived in and their eventual extinction. And for this is where we want to come back to this standard Western orchestral idea and have this really big theme and these really big ideas coming back. Transitionally, it was a bit difficult here because we're going straight from this sort of wide open soul vocal sound into this just regular orchestra once again. So I had to play around with a few things, and I think the transition works pretty decently. Also, we're moving from 4/4 back into the original time signature of 3/4 with 2/4 bar, just for good measure, to make it a little bit more difficult for us, but also just to make sure we're hitting those main hit points. So I wanted it, as soon as we hear lush forests in the narration, I wanted it to change back to that orchestral sound. So let's hear that transition. Not too bad, pretty good. Could be ironed out a little bit maybe, but yeah, I think it sounds pretty good. Right, let's hear this third section and then I'll talk you through it. Now, I really like how this section turned out. It took quite a bit of work, but it's sounding pretty good, pretty decent in the end. Again, could do with a little bit of a mix, but I can show you that kind of thing in future videos. So for this, we were back in 3/4, and I sketched out these kind of ideas. I wanted some like nice juicy chords here, so I sketched it out on the piano originally. Let's just hear how my piano sketch went. Okay, so not exactly voiced very nicely or any of that, and not played in a nice professional manner at all. Just sketches so that I know what chord is going to go where. And actually what I did eventually end up doing is over here in the text part of Logic, I just wrote down each individual bar in that last section and each chord and each note that was in that chord, so that I knew where I was moving and if I could fit in an extra little extension somewhere or something like that in one of the parts. So I knew which notes were already in and which I could like fit in to make it sound juicier and richer. So we're in A flat now. So we start with this A flat major 9 chord. We then move to the 4, so D flat major 7 with a 13 as well. And then so we move to the 2, so B flat minor 11. And I don't think it actually is over E flat, so let's ignore that. And then bar 68, we go to C7, which actually is not in the key of A flat. And that's because we're moving to F minor, which is the 6th. So this is what we call a secondary dominant, where we use the 5 chord of the chord that we're going to move to. So we're moving to the 6th in A flat major, which is F minor. Before that, we used a 5/7 of that chord. So C7 is the fifth of F. We move from C7 over G, so in second inversion, down to that F minor. It just leads really, really nicely. We then move to the 7 in the key, which is D minor with some extensions, the 7, D minor 7, 9 and 11. We then move to the 3, which is C minor now, with a flat 9 and an 11. Then we do a bit of a circle of fifths movement. Again, this kind of secondary dominant idea. G7 is the fifth, moving to C7, which then takes us back to that F minor, and then we have a diminished passing chord of this F sharp diminished 7. So we go from F minor 7 to F sharp diminished 7. It's a really, really cool sound. It's got this really nice tension, and then that leads us into this main climax, A flat major 7, back to the one chord, where we hear the narrator talking about humans and how they rose through the rise of mammals. These dinosaurs are no longer. And yeah, it's just a really, really cool sound. I'll show you something I did in the orchestration for that part, which gives it this really massive climax. Again, then we move to the 3 chord C minor. We then what was my thinking here? So we have B flat 7 sharp 9 going to E flat 9 sound, and I guess that was secondary dominant, circle of fifths movement again. So B flat is the fifth of E flat is the fifth of A flat, but instead of this nice perfect cadence, we're gonna give it an interrupted cadence. So that's a 5 to the 6. And we finish on this F like we did in the main theme in the beginning. So really juicy, really cool chords going on there. Yeah, generally pretty cool. And this really nice movement carrying us across the idea of like these lush forests, and then a bit of tension building, I think, in with that C minor 7 with the flat 9. A bit later on when it's talking about this, apocalyptic event, bit of tension again, taking us back into the climax where we talk about the end of dinosaurs, and we talk about, watch us as we follow this. And that's what the narrator is talking about at that point. And then just that sort of circle of fifths sound at the end to build as much tension as possible to take us back into the main theme. So I had this idea. I sketched out all these chords on a piano sketch, and I just actually went in and I was going to just sort of do it note by note. So cello, start with the A flat, then we go to a D flat, all the bass notes. But I went in and I started playing with the chords just in this cello sound. A kind of arpeggiation, and I thought it sounded really, really nice, just this cello moving in an arpeggio fashion. So I kept that and I sketched out just so that we hear the cello arpeggiating all of these chords. And one of the benefits of using the cello for this is it sounds really, really nice at its lowest range, but it also sounds really, really, really nice in the higher range. So it just melds and blends really, really beautifully, which is why the arpeggio works really well for the cello. Okay, once I'd done that, I just went through the string lines and just basically played in all the other notes. So like viola, we're basically going to use the fifths, I think, for the viola. So yeah, we start on that E flat, then we go down to an A flat, down and back up again. And then in the violins, we're going to outline that main third sound. So we start on the C, we then go to the F. So A flat, third is C, F is the third of D flat. So that's in the second violins. In the first violins, we're going to support with these kind of seventh sounds, I think. So, or maybe just the one, just to again support that harmony, and the seventh can come later on, and ninth and flat 9 and that sort of thing. But we don't necessarily need to do that in any other instruments, because we have the cello outlining the seventh and the ninth, or the flat 9 or the 11th or whatever. Cool. So I just went in and recorded the strings. Let's just hear all of those together. Yeah, I want to hold that back for now because I want you to hear it, the impact of that A flat major 9 a little bit with, you know, with the other instruments. And then we basically just have some clarinets and oboes sort of supporting some of these lines, just outlining the sevenths and a few other chord tones that just really provide a little bit of tension and juiciness. As well as that, we've got a bit of percussion because there's kind of an uneven amount of bars. I wanted to make sure that this climactic sound hits at bar 81 when we see this image of a human and we hear the narrator talk about the rise of mammals. But I think there's how many bars? Let's have a look. We have 19 bars actually from the start of this new section, which is a really awkward number. So basically this percussion is just sort of outlining some of the notes and like making some chords hit a little bit harder than others just to support and give that weight to it, so that it sets us up really nicely so that we have a nice even sound for coming up to the climactic part. Let me just show you what I mean here. So I wanted it to hit at bar 81, so I have a bit of a percussive swell 2 bars before and also leading up to 4 bars before, even though that would be like kind of weird. That would be, I guess, at like bar 15 from where we were, so it might feel a bit awkward, but I think it works pretty well. As well as that, at bar 77, I have this rundown in all of the instruments pretty much playing in unison or in octaves. Yeah, so bassoon, trumpet, the horn joins in a little bit later. All of the strings are playing this rundown in octaves, as well as the flute, just to like stop and reset us back to build up to that climax. So let's hear it from like 4 bars before. Okay, and so this is where it hits. And let's just hear that climax. It's way more powerful than any of the other parts. Let's hear it. So this climax on A flat, way more powerful. The reason for that is because we are now including the lowest instruments in the standard orchestra. So we have the double bass and the tuba joining in to just underline that harmony, pin it down. We've got that nice strong A flat joining now. And this is a really, really useful trick in your orchestration when you're building up to this climax. Hold back for the whole piece with these lowest instruments, and then the main climax is going to hit super hard, you know, just really going to feel extra powerful, and you might not even realize why, but that's what's going on. So if you notice this climax in the beginning where we see the main titles, down here I've not got basses playing and I've not got the tuba playing. We're saving it until later on to make sure it hits even harder. Sounds good, but compare that to the power of this sound. So powerful, and it's from that tuba and that double bass coming in. Cool. And then we just see out basically the rest of the piece with the main theme building again, just a little drop in tension to build us back up to this main theme. And then actually at the end as well, we also have a rit, which is just where the music slows down just to lead us into the last note. So let's hear that. And I really, really wanted to include the tuba or the double bass again in this last note, just to really pin it down again. But you've got to think about how the music works with the rest of the overall sound. So right here at the end of the piece, if I just solo the sound design and the narration, you hear this massive dinosaur roar. So that's really cool, and it would be really cool to go along with this double bass and tuba, but they actually just clash because they're sort of in the same register, the same frequencies, really, really low down, and it just sounds too muddy and messy. So I think it actually kind of works as like its own pinning down of the harmony, or like pinning down of this kind of low guttural idea. Really, really cool. Yeah, that was my walkthrough of this score that I've written for the newest clip, The World of Dinosaurs. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.